Today we will take up a case study of pre-formulation profile of a compound NP647. NP647 is a novel thyrotropin releasing hormone analog that was synthesized by Department of Medicinal Chemistry at NIPER, who have been working on TRH analogs as therapeutic agents for therapeutic application of anti-epileptic. TRH is a neuropeptide having 3 amino acids. This is the chemical structure of TRH analog NP647. Here NP stands for NIPER. 647 is the compound number. All compounds that are generated in the NIPER under the drug discovery program start with the number NP or start with the alphabets NP. We will be looking at the pre-formulation profiling of this compound, and since this is a compound from the drug discovery pipeline of NIPER, we will analyze both the pre-formulation properties that are important during the drug discovery stage and the properties that are important during the drug development phase. So this would be an interesting example where whatever we have studied till now in theory will be put to practice. So this compound was actually given to our lab for pre-formulation profiling. And by that time, it had already undergone animal studies, that is preclinical toxicity and preclinical efficacy studies. So what we did was a retrospective analysis of the druggability of this molecule, where we wanted to look whether this particular compound complies to the Lipinski's rule of fives or not. So as per the Lipinski's rule of five, the desired molecular weight is less than 500 daltons, while NP647 has a molecular weight of 404.46 daltons. The log P should be less than 5. NP647 had a log P of minus 1.07, which means it's a highly polar compound. That is why it has a negative log P value. The number of hydrogen bond donors should be less than 5, and is what 5 in the case of this molecule, while the number of hydrogen bond acceptors should be less than 10, and here it was 10. We can say there are violations of rule of fives in terms of hydrogen bond donors and acceptors, and this may have implications on oral absorption by affecting the permeability of the compound. Why we make this conclusion that there is a violation of the rule of fives? Because the hydrogen bond donors should be less than 5, where in this case the number is 5. Similarly, hydrogen bond acceptors should be less than 10, but here the number is 10. So from that perspective, the Lipinski's rule of 5 shows 2 violations, and the hydrogen bond donors and acceptors are known to affect the intestinal permeability of the compound. This intestinal permeability is important for cases or for compounds that permeate by passive diffusion. So this thing has to be kept in mind. Now this slide captures the total pre-formulation profile of NP647, which was generated after doing a lot of experimentation. Later on in the presentation, I will also share with you the kind of experimentation that was done to generate this profile that will give you an idea of the effort that goes in generating the pre-formulation profiles. These pre-formulation profiles are then used for making decisions regarding the druggability of the molecule and also to identify the challenges during the formulation development. We will look at the profile of NP647 one by one. So the predicted human dose for this compound was 50 milligrams. The solubility at pH 6.8 was 11.7 milligrams per ml, and the intrinsic solubility was 2.4 milligrams per ml. The permeability coefficient or P apparent in humans, which was predicted from the CACO2 cell data, was 7.56 into 10 to the power minus 4 centimeter per second, which puts it under the category of highly permeable compound. So we can conclude that this is a highly soluble molecule. So there is no need for solubility enhancement, and it belongs to BCS class 1 because the solubility is high as well as the permeability is high. The maximum absorbable dose was calculated as 8.45 grams. So this is much higher than the predicted human dose of 50 milligrams. The log P was minus 1.07, while the log D at a pH of 7.8 was minus 1.24. This means this is a highly hydrophilic compound because the log P is on the negative side. The permeability coefficient, that is P apparent from apical to basolateral side, was 3.24 into 10 to the power minus 5 centimeter per second, while the P apparent from basolateral to the apical side was 2.05 into 10 to the power minus 5 centimeter per second. This means that apical to basolateral permeability is much higher as compared to basolateral to apical permeability, and this indicates active transport of the compound, which means the NP647 is not absorbed passively and it is absorbed by an active transport mechanism. There are certain carriers which are called as peptide transporters, which are responsible for the active absorption of peptide molecules. In all probability, NP647 is a substrate for that. Because of that, it shows active transport. The implication of the conclusion that it is absorbed or permeated through the active transport is that Lipinski's rule of fives now becomes irrelevant because it is applicable for passively absorbed drugs only. This means that the Lipinski's rule of fives is applicable only for passively absorbed drug, and if there is a drug candidate that is actively absorbed, then the Lipinski's rule of fives does not have any relevance. In view of the active transport of NP647, the earlier observation that there are two violations of the Lipinski's rule of fives in terms of hydrogen bond donors and hydrogen bond acceptors becomes meaningless. That particular information is of no use now. the pK value for the compound was determined, and it is a weak base with a pK value of 7.2. This is for good oral absorption. Basic drug should have a pK value of less than 7.8. This we had studied while talking about the pK as a pre-formulation parameter. It complies to this requirement. However, this is not very relevant as the drug is absorbed actively. The solid state properties of the compound were carried out. It was found to be amorphous in nature with a glass transition temperature of 68.47, and it was found to be deliquescent in nature, which means it picks up water and liquefies. This is going to be a serious issue during the development phase because deliquescent compounds are difficult to develop into oral solid dosage forms. The relevance of amorphous nature of the drug and a TG of 68.47 can be assessed from the TG minus 50K rule for processing and temperature. So if we minus 50 from 68.47, we are left with a value of 18.47, which means that it is likely that this compound will be stable at the room temperature of 25 degree Celsius. Hence, there may not be a need to specifically stabilize the amorphous nature of the compound, and it may be as such stable in the amorphous form. The solid state stability studies were carried out, and it shows that it is stable up to a pH of 5. Then the effect of buffer of pH 5, that is tartrate buffer, citrate buffer, and phosphate buffer was assessed. The tartrate buffer leads to the least degradation, and it can be thus used in the formulation to control the microenvironment pH. The plasma stability of the compound against two enzymes, aminopeptidase and deamidase, was found to be very poor, and it showed a half-life of 2 to 7 minutes only, which means the compound will have a very short half-life and will have to be given either intravenously as an infusion. Even the control release oral formulations will not be useful because the half-life is rather very low, and only chemistry-based interventions can help in increasing this half-life. So this is going to be a real issue for the development of this compound because the plasma stability of the compound is very, very low. The compaction behavior and the flow properties of the compound were determined. Because of the low dose and amorphous nature of the compound, we do not expect any issues in the compaction behavior. However, flow behavior may pose a challenge because of the deliquescent nature of the compound. So from this, we identified the challenges. So one of the challenge was the very short half-life, which may even prevent its development into a successful drug. Apart from that, the very hygroscopic nature or deliquescent nature was identified as a major challenge. It will lead to difficulty in handling of the compound. There will be processing problem, solid state instability, and physical changes are expected because of the very hygroscopic nature. Strategies that can be adopted to improve this include salt formation, selection of excipients like desiccants in the formulation, manufacturing under controlled humidity. We can have a humidity of say less than 25% RH and then carry out the manufacturing activities. The other strategy is to use special packaging container to prevent the ingress of moisture into the compound. So the inputs for formulation development indicate that the biggest challenge is the deliquescent nature. So in terms of the oral dosage form, if we have to choose between a tablet versus a capsule, moisture cell in the capsule shell may pose a problem. Tablet as a compact dosage form would prevent entry of moisture, and additionally protective coating can be provided on the tablet. So from that perspective, if at all we have to develop a dosage form, a tablet dosage form would be much more acceptable in this case as compared to the capsule dosage form. The selection of the excipient, apart from the usual excipient, there is a need to perform compatibility studies with desiccants because the compound was found to be highly hygroscopic. The manufacturing process will have to be either dry granulation or direct compression. The primary pack could be aluminum cold form crystal pack, because this is a completely water impermeable pack and will help in developing a product which can be saved from the ingress of moisture. Based on this, the pharmaceutical product profile for the compound NP647 was developed. So the dosage form which is suggested is a tablet dosage form. Release pattern would be immediate release followed by controlled release. This is because of the short half-life. But I must again highlight here that the half-life is so short, even a controlled release tablet will not be successful. Dose strength, different strengths for pediatric and geriatric patients will have to be developed. Excipients, excipient which overcome hygroscopicity of the API will be required. So hence we'll have to do the selection of a desiccant. The primary pack could be moisture resistant and tamper evident aluminum cold form crystal pack. Additional features in the pack could be a calendar pack with the desiccant, since it is going to be a chronic long-term therapy. Hence, this pack could be useful. The manufacturing process could be dry granulation under controlled humidity because of the deliquescent nature. To wrap up the discussion on the pre-formulation profile that emerged for NP647, there are few very important learnings which we have to take home as a message. The first one is that to develop this into a successful molecule will be very, very difficult, or rather impossible, because of the very short plasma half-life of the molecule. The half-life is only 2 to 7 minutes, and within 2 to 7 minutes, the concentration of the molecule in the blood will be reduced to half. Hence, very soon, within few minutes or maybe within couple of hours, the entire compound will disappear from the plasma. Hence, the therapeutic efficacy will be compromised. So while doing the selection of the molecule, had we done the pre-formulation early on, we could have put a red flag here that this molecule is not suitable for further development. But this compound came to us for pre-formulation much later in the life cycle. And by that time, some studies on the preclinical efficacy and preclinical toxicity had already been carried out. The second learning is that if we ignore the very short half-life of the compound is highly deliquescent in nature, and because of that there will be problems during the development of the oral solid dosage form. These problems have been addressed in this pharmaceutical product profile, and keeping these in mind, the formulation can be developed for this particular molecule. Now we will have a look at the experimental data which was generated to reach to the reformulation profile of this molecule. We are not going into the details of the data per se. The idea here is to show that how much effort goes in generating the pre-formulation profile of one molecule, and based on that data the further decisions are taken up. So we had already discussed this retrospective analysis of the druggability based on Lipinski's rule of fives. The BCS classification of NP647 was done on the basis of these parameters. The predicted human dose is 50 milligrams. Solubility is 11.7 milligrams per ml, and the permeability is 7.56 into 10 to the power minus 4 centimeter per second, which puts it under the category of highly permeable and highly soluble molecule. For the permeability, the additional studies were carried out to show the log P value and the log D value. The P apparent values were determined in CAFO2 cell lines for both the directions, that is apical to basolateral and basolateral to apical. Higher absorption in apical to basolateral transport than the basolateral to apical indicates possibility of active transport. It also demonstrated a saturable transport mechanism. As you can see here, with increasing concentration, the flux rate becomes constant after 1 point. This is the proposed mechanism of transport for this molecule. There are peptide transporters 1. In abbreviation, they are called as PEP-T1. And these are responsible for active transport of the peptide type of molecules. So this is the PEP-T1 transport, and this is NP647. And it is transported through this pump, and it is dependent on the use of energy, that is ATP molecules are used in this, and sodium potassium pump is also at play here. So this is the peptide transporter through which the molecule is transported from the apical to the basolateral side. Then extensive evidence was generated for the active transport by carrying out a number of studies. Some compounds were given along with during the permeability study. For example, glycine was given, which is an inhibitor of PEP-T1, and hence will reduce the permeability coefficient. Similarly, amoxicillin is also an inhibitor of PEP-T1, and the relative permeability reduced to 85. Sodium azide inhibits the sodium potassium ATPase pump, and this reduced the relative permeability to 76. If you remove the sodium from the medium, then the permeability was only 63%. And if you give it along with verapamil, which is a PGP efflux pump inhibitor, the permeability was not affected, which means it is not a substrate for the PGP efflux pathway. The PK was determined by using an instrument which was available in our lab, and the PK value was found out to be 7.2, and it is a weakly basic drug. So this is the Jerem plot for the determination of the PK value. So you can see that around 7.2, it shows 50% ionization. The intrinsic solubility was found to be 2.4 milligrams per ml, and this is the solubility profile of the compound. It is highly soluble in acidic pH conditions because it is a basic compound. There is no need for solubility enhancement approaches because the compound already has a very good solubility. This is the PXRD, which shows a halo pattern, which is characteristic of the amorphous form. And in the polarized light microscopy, there was absence of birefringence, which again confirmed its amorphous form. The differential scanning calorimetry was carried out to find out the glass transition value of the amorphous compound. The conventional DSC could not give us the glass transition temperature because of the simultaneously occurring events of moisture loss and onset of degradation. Hence, modulated DSC was carried out to separate out the event of moisture loss and glass transition temperature. And with the help of that, we could find out that the onset of the glass transition temperature. So this endotherm, this shift in the specific heat curve is responsible for, is because of the glass transition temperature, and 68.46 was the onset of the TG value for this compound. The percentage weight change against relative humidity was done, and it shows highly deliquescent nature of the molecule because at increasing humidity it picks up a lot of moisture. Around 40% moisture was picked up by the compound, which indicates towards the problems during storage and processing. This is the solution state stability, pH stability profile at 60 °C was carried out, and this shows the percent drug degradation at different pH values, and this shows the role of different buffers at pH 5. Tartrate buffer was most suitable for the development of the oral solid dosage form, and we can add the buffer powder into the tablet formulation to control the microenvironment pH. The T-half was found to be 3.2 years, which is a very, you can say, encouraging value, and this should not show any problems with respect to the stability. The plasma stability was 227, and the enzymes responsible for this instability were aminopeptidase and deamidase. So formulation-based approaches will not be useful to improve the plasma half-life, and we will have to go for changing the chemistry of the molecule. Hence, we'll end up with a new molecule. The derived properties were carried out. The bulk density and tap density and flow properties could not be characterized due to the large amount of non-availability of large amount of the NCE, because these require a significant amount of material to be available for carrying out the study. The flow may pose a problem by picking up moisture. This we can conclude from the deliquescent nature of the compound. This slide we had already discussed, identifying the problems, and this one also we had discussed that a tablet dosage form would be much more desirable than the capsule dosage form, and this pharmaceutical product profile was also discussed earlier. So with this we come to the end of this particular molecules discussion with respect to the pre-formulation properties. There is only one slide which is for the evidence of the active transport, which was generated for NP647, and extensive studies were carried out in the presence of various inhibitors to put forth an hypothesis or to establish the hypothesis that the compound is absorbed by the oral by the active transport mechanism. So with this, we come to an end with respect to our discussions on the pre-formulation properties. In this class, we took up a case study of a compound that has come out of the NIPER's drug discovery pipeline, NP647, and discussed in detail the pre-formulation properties of the compound. And based on that, we made certain decisions which are relevant in the drug discovery as well as the drug development phase. In the drug discovery phase, the decision which is important is related to the short half-life of the material. Because of a very short half-life, this compound may not be a good candidate for future development. However, if we ignore that part and look at the drug development part, then the deliquescent nature of the compound came out to be the most critical pre-formulation property, because of which the development of the oral solid form will be challenging. So in this way, the pre-formulation profiling is carried out for all the molecules that come into the drug discovery phase or come for the formulation development, and relevant scientifically sound decisions can be made based on the pre-formulation properties.